Hello, and welcome to the Daring to Succeed podcast. I'm your host, Juliana Yao Jorgen, and today we are going to talk about when resignations go wrong. So, a few episodes ago, I talked about this from the perspective of leaders who have employees who resign, we'll say without much grace. But today, I'm going to get into the employee side. So, when your boss or your employer doesn't take your resignation all that well. First, of course, if you're in the thick of it and things have already gone sideways, definitely get yourself a local employment lawyer who can make sure that you're protected. Luckily, the worst I've seen in a coaching client was when she was accused of sending herself company materials, which she absolutely was not, and had to prove that. Because she was in the right, she had nothing to worry about. She knew she was only sending herself her performance reviews, and no matter how much they went through her emails, they wouldn't find anything else. So, before we get into the juicy stuff, I'll assume you're listening to this because you're getting ready to quit your current job and are worried that things might not go so well for you. Maybe you've been working on an internal promotion for a while and finally got a better role somewhere else instead. Or maybe things have just been really tense between you and your boss, and getting a job outside the company was your best way out. Or maybe things have been fine, but you're going to a competitor and you're not quite sure how they'll take it. In any case, I'll assume you've been working towards an exit for a while and you know that you're going to need to talk to your boss about quitting, and you're pretty sure it's not going to be a great conversation. So let's start with the situation where you might be moving internally. So, at every company I've worked with and most of the clients I've coached, in this situation, your boss is probably likely already to know that you're going to another team. This could be like a leadership only practice where they start to plan transitions between managers, and then there are some companies that also require you discuss your candidacy for this other role after you get to a certain point in the interview process. So, for these situations, there's limited fallout that can happen. If your boss is terrible, they may go as far as not recommending that you go for that role or that you're a good candidate for the role, or they might push for a really, really long transition period. But beyond that, there's not a lot they can do. Although I personally was in a situation early in my career where my boss actually lied to me and said that I couldn't apply for another role, but that's pretty extreme. And I only found out about it because I very, very innocently asked my HR rep when I could apply for another role. And she said that they had already discussed the situation between the HR and leadership teams, and my boss was told I could apply. um, but short of, these really extreme cases and these, what I would consider career damaging moves of your boss, leaving a team for another one could just be super uncomfortable. A good thing to do before you speak with your boss is just get a list of everything that you're working on, which things you'll be able to finish before you leave, and which things will need someone else to take over. This way, if things start to get super awkward, you can refocus the conversation on that list and bring it back to a conversation about transition, making sure that your current team and the work that needs to be done is all taken care of. But what if it's not so cut and dry and you're actually leaving for another company altogether? Being walked out of a company right away is pretty unheard of. So it's very unlikely that right after you have the conversation with your boss, they're like, okay, off you go then, goodbye. But I do actually still hear of people who are being what I'll call exited early. So either later that day that they've resigned or later that week. And typically, this is because that boss has discussed it with HR, with the rest of the leadership team. They've reviewed the situation and made that decision. It used to be that this would only happen if the employee was, irate when they were resigning or already had performance problems, so there was no benefit in keeping them around, or that it was very clear that they were going to a competitor. But in the past few years, I've actually seen employers be much more risk adverse and ask these employees to leave before their notice period, even though they were good employees, there was no risk, even if they weren't going to a competitor, they were even changing jobs entirely. And I've even coached managers who didn't know how to handle this situation because they had advised that their employee was not a risk, but they were told to send them on their way early anyway. So, if you're worried that this might happen, like my client, you may consider very carefully taking copies of only what is rightfully yours. And probably performance reviews are about it because any actual work you've done for the company belongs to them. Doesn't matter whether it's as simple as a template that you created or complex as an entire product. These are things that your employer has paid you to do for them, so you can't take those. And then client and even coworker information, like their contact information, is also pretty much hands off territory. What you may want to do is draft a farewell email that includes your personal contact information that you plan to send after your departure is made sort of public inside the company, after your boss has a chance to actually tell people that you're leaving. Short of that, most of what I'm seeing now for people who want to stay connected with their colleagues is that they're just connecting on social media platforms, LinkedIn, and whatever else, just to stay in touch. And then managing a potential outburst from your boss is a little bit more tricky. Um, if this is something that you're concerned with, I encourage you definitely to speak with your HR team or an employment lawyer to find out what your options are. If it's like a concern with a small emotional outburst, your boss is generally what I'll call dramatic anyway. Maybe what something you could do is make sure that you're doing this conversation on a video call so that you've got some physical distance. Or if you have to be in the office, do it somewhere where other people can actually see you. But again, if there's concern for your physical safety, definitely get some official support there. But honestly, at the end of the day, resignations are usually fairly uneventful. And when they go sideways, it's only a bit of pettiness that probably will sting a lot when it happens, but will heal over time. The important thing is to make sure that you are not doing anything that will get you in trouble later, whether it's gossiping about your current employer, telling people that you're leaving before you actually tell your boss, or taking anything from the company, even things that you did for them during your employment. You can also try to mitigate things by keeping the conversation short and professional and just giving them just enough information and really nothing else. Resigning to pursue another opportunity is still a very commonly accepted reason for departure. And most employers aren't going to press for more information than that. So if you're on your way to a better job, congratulations. And I hope this episode was helpful. If you need a little bit of help navigating the situation, just reach out to me by email or on LinkedIn. And remember, it may be a rough departure, but you have better days ahead of you. Okay, that's it for now. I'll see you next time.